had to take a short break so I could upload a video and get it posted. So, examine that cover. Who's this guy? Who's this douche bag? Random aside, like 20 years ago, when I was talking about Solix's type of lisp, I realized later it actually said deuce bag, like there was no H. So if it was deuce bag, then he would say deuce bag. But that still doesn't make any sense. Jeez, look at these updates. So we don't know who this douchebag is. But I suppose we'll find out. Before you can make heads or tails of who exactly this douchebag is, something rolls out of the sleeve. It appears to be a very small record. It's so small. What is such a small record doing in this great big sleeve? Is it a 45? What are the ones that are the small records? There are such things. My mom used to have a bunch. Oh, you got Homestuck, a disc too. You cannot get over how tiny this record is. It's adorable. You wonder what kind of music it plays. Play tiny record? 45 inch. No. You gonna scratch it? Yep, you scratched it. Predictably, you scratched the surface of the disc. What were you expecting? It's almost like you don't even know what a CD is. With the disc damaged, who knows what sort of effects it will have on the data? Better store it somewhere safe to prevent any more mishaps. Capture log disk. It would be perfectly safe from any similar kinds of damage while secured in your scratch and sniff modus. And records of a nice musty scent. Examine those chests. You have spent way too much time calibrating the ambience of your investigation and not nearly enough time investigating. It is one of the most common pitfalls to being an investigator. Aside from literal pitfalls, which you actually fall into. Ooh, excuse me. There are 2 chests in this secret room. Nothing out of the ordinary. Chests are everywhere in this lab, and people find it all too tempting to sneak their personal belongings into them for safekeeping. That is, until the goods are stolen shortly after by those who can't resist looting every chest they encounter, which is everybody. Maybe these ones contain clues? I want to show you guys something before I forget. Something I was working on. Oh, part of it got swooshed up. 1 second while I fix this. Poopers scoopers. Why did I do that? Get out of there. Get out of there. Ugh. Okay, I think I've got it. Yeah, not quite. And I just wrecked it further. Never mind. Trying to get it from the wrong angle. Never mind. Open chest. You got your Neophyte Red Glare renewal playing outfit. What is this doing in here? You've not worn it since your flarping days. The only part of it you kept on hand was a stylish pair of glasses, which of course since the incident have vanished to become a regular accessory. I had actually wondered that. Yay, now I know. But you cannot imagine how someone could have gotten their hands on the rest of it. Surely a crafty and resourceful criminal is at work. Spider troll, spider troll, spider troll. Spider troll, spider troll. People are messaging me on Skype. They completely inane and useless things. Never mind. Wear suit. You don the garb of the legendary Legis Lacerator. It brings back memories of many successful fantasy prosecutions resulting in the real executions of rival players. Those were the days. And the pattern on the carpet is suspiciously diamond-like. I wonder what that foreshadows. Open another chest. You got your Pyrospite plush! Pyrospite was your Scalemate sidekick during your campaigns. He was the model of loyalty, friendship, and righteous retribution. More than could be said for another partner in justice. There is no doubt about it anymore. She is clearly baiting you into confrontation. You mean baiting. Hug Pyrospite. Squeak! You embrace your old friend, releasing a mighty and majestic squeak. It has been too long, old friend. You vow never to let him out of your scent again. Onk. No, I don't want to be hugging this. This puppet is becoming a nuisance. It appears to exhibit the same incredible puppet fastness properties which Dave's had. It must be some form of universal puppet enchantment. It couldn't possibly be the same one, because that would just be insane. Hey, where did Pyrrelspite go? She's unhappy. It's like... She's not crazy grinning self. Look up. There he is. How'd he get all the way up there? He has always been quite the slippery scalawag. Maybe he was reminding you to check out the note. You almost forgot it was up there, what with all your furious investigating. Most of which has involved fooling around with records, hugging plush toys, and cosplaying as a childhood heroine. Read it. Just as you thought. It's a message from Vriska summoning you to do her battle. Summoning you to do battle. Not her specifically. It is written in Gamzee's rich, jelly-smelling blood, but it is her handwriting for sure. Her quirk is present, leaving the matter debatable. You know, it's funny that like, she always commented on Tavros' blood smelling like chocolate, and Gamzee's is grape jelly. So instead of peanut butter and jelly, it's more like Nutella and jelly. Nutella. But why the hell does she want you to bring this stupid puppet along? She's so weird. There's a journal entry on the back. It probably isn't the slightest bit relevant to the current situation, but you guess it couldn't hurt to read it anyway. You should never discard a clue. Examine journal entry. I suppose I'll have to get used to writing with this hand instead. I now do so in captivity, while I bring my awe to bear on the immensity of the subjugulator's hijinks. I took their gesture as plain avowal to my prosecution's futility. With a lone neophyte assigned to the task, how could I view it otherwise? I was sure they'd drawn from the bottom of their deck, not intending to squander more competent mercenaries on one who'd made a show of outclassing them all before. But I discovered too late that Red Glare was their wild card all along. How was one allowed to be raised by a dragon in this era, let alone one of such middling blood, the sickly hue of a gutless civil servant? Those of her caste are typically pleased to mount a sluggish collar bear, or some brainless, squawking spleen fowl during petty expeditions to plaster seizure notices on malignant property. By what fluke was this woman granted such a weapon, permitting her to luxuriate in these delusions of her righteousness? Something blocked the light of the unbitten moon, treating the harbor to darkness more grim than what fell in the season's apogee. I made the mistake of looking into its eyes, each like a sun concentrated into a small jewel, as two hot garnets sealing through a black veil. I shut mine quickly, but the more sensitive of them was burned irreparably. When I regained sight in the other, there was only red. My fleet was in flames. The neophyte was on deck. Pyrrelspite, she mentioned to her ridiculous, forced grin. She wanted me to know the name of the beast which was able to consume my Lucis whole. My dice were in the hold below, and not that my present luck would be consent to a favorable roll anyway. I made a move for my blade. She took my arm, which I'm sure she kept as the tiniest of snacks for her ostentatious custodian. Maybe she meant to prove she wouldn't need me in the irons to have my submission? Bound or free. 2, 1, or none. I wonder how well she knows it's not what I do with my arms she has to fear. I await my trial. Insert disc 2. Bleep. Boom. Loading. We're getting some recursiveness here. Woo! That was neat. Sis. Roof now. Bring the puppet. I'm pleased. Acrobatic fucking pirouette. Giant dragon. Fuck yes. Cool dragon, it's cool. Neophyte red glare. Marquise mindfuck. Your ships are sunk. No, my ships. Oh, yes. Fan art? I will have my revenge. Sweet. La la la. Much fanfare was made of the trial. More than I would have dared to hope. It seems my luck has been returning as of late. The Highbloods surely intended to make a spectacle of my conviction. They filled the court block with peasants ravenous for the comeuppance of a blue blood. I wasn't about to deny them what they came for. Is she just sitting there reading this? It was kind of the authorities to supply me with a phalanx of such impressionable spectators. The weak wills were nearly as thick in the air as the rust in their veins. Funny how my other senses seemed to have peaked since exchanging glances with the dragon. What an extraordinary specimen! How I've come to covet the creature since it ruined my fleet. I know too well the whispers of a dangerous new infatuation when they beckon. But I digress. It was simple enough to nudge the hostility of the lowbloods from one aristocrat to another. The subjugulators could not have been pleased, but nor could they have been altogether unamused, I would expect. I wonder if this was part of their unfathomable game. I never understand their riddles. Hang the teal blood, hang the teal blood. I only regret I didn't get to hear the opening statement the neophyte had prepared against me. The case she compiled from all that evidence she burned must have been damning. I bet her remarks would have stung worse than when she severed my arm. She certainly would have shown me greater mercy by taking the other instead. Alas, I mocked to disguise the extent of my regret. Had my escape not necessitated her demise, she would have made a lovely rival. If she'd only discarded her childish preoccupation with justice, it might have been a striking scourge. Had we inched blacker, we'd have torn red miles across the land and sea. Unfortunately, the only miles to be found through her bureaucratic calling were those of red tape. When so ensnared, one is eventually bound to be choked. When the court block cleared, all that remained to obstruct my freedom was his honorable tyranny himself. Upon reflection, red glare showed the foresight of a true seer in thieving my arm before the trial. Seers and thieves. It permitted a fair fight. Though I was free, I had no fleet. No matter. With the Gamblignans decimated, I was like disembebbed. I'd embraced the turn in fortune and pledged to put my sea-grifting ways behind me. With any luck, the skies will be my future. My thoughts again returned to that dragon. But first, I was in need of temporary refuge. I sought it with the expatriate. Oh, it's a nice hive. He owed me for the sweeps of protection I provided after his brazen defiance of the Highbloods. It was perhaps the only such courageous stand ever taken against a superior by one of his supercilious pedigree, and I'd have not bothered sticking my neck out for another. But the admiration he'd won naturally wore thin as he persistently bemoaned his treason and banishment, and I was saddened to find this habit holding strong even now. I wonder if he still believes he was worth it. He was big. God damn. Repairing my arm would go a little further in squaring his debt with me. Even if I came with both intact, I might have ripped one off and put him to the task just to halt his blubbering. Darklear was always a skilled machinist, and the work proved an adequate distraction. So pacified, he listened to what I had to say about my recent travails with the law and pyrospite, and what I'd come for in truth, the treasure he'd been keeping safe for me. I cradled the oracle in my synthetic hand, as if appraising by weight the mystic qualities it still concealed. With my vision eightfold seared away, I was as blind to its secrets as the old doctor was to its present whereabouts. I'd learned to keep it cloaked from the awareness of the man who would once call me his protege, a backhanded term of endearment from a smug manipulator. Locating his so-called dark pockets was the only gambit I had in countering his milk-tongued doublespeak. The expatriate, for indiscernible reasons, seemed naturally surrounded by such a void in the darkness awareness, and so was uniquely fit to inherit the orb. The doctor could not see his treasure, nor I into it. I considered what to do with it for a while. Should I find pyrospite by consulting with the oracle, as I'd done so often to steal fortune from my adversaries? I guessed exploiting some technological means of gazing through its surface might have been simple enough. But I hesitated. Every expedient granted by its counsel, though never instantly, came at a price. Knowing his nature, I'm surprised I only now recognize it as yet another instrument of his spurious benevolence, dangerous by way of selective divulgence. The sense of infallibility his oracle brought me was superficial, and in hindsight weakened my readiness. Knowing my fate so far in advance, I took Redglare's threat lightly. The greatest mistake I have ever made was asking the orate? Orb? Okay. I thought she was going to start to say oracle, and I was like, orate? Orb. When I would die. But as I revisited the prophecy surrounding this unfortunate query, something struck me. I thought of the man I would have as a mate spree centuries from now, who was said to command an army of beasts. The one it called the Summoner. How do you even with horns like that? Like, seriously. You're unfit for most doors. If my obsession with the dragon should continue to burn for so long, would he be the one to assist me in taming it? I did not have enough knowledge to ask the right questions when it had been the opportunity. Were that the case, I might have asked if it would be his rare abilities of communion that would bring pyrospite under my control. Would it be on account of my influence? And if so, would I exert this influence by taking his will, or winning his heart? These are details I would have given no second thought in drawing from the orb, my curiosity of force usually too much to quell. But now, I have thought of the Summoner often. I have been troubled to know that as one so common-blooded, he could not have possibly have hatched yet, nor will he wriggle from the caverns for many sweeps. So I must have patience to take up my role in his story of heroism. It is a tale which reads to me as though lifted from a child's story, yet I know I'd be a fool to doubt its veracity entirely. He would rise through the ranks of the cavalry and assume command, having proven the most skilled and fearless of them. He would exhibit a remarkable occupation, the sort only recorded in myth, growing, or perhaps simply revealing, a striking pair of wings. His army thus inspired would spearhead a major rebellion. Surely one, at least on the scale of sectarian revolt crushed by the Highbloods, who thereafter forbade its mention, or any invocation of the heretical symbols at all, even in private journals. Which is why I will stick to the fable of the Summoner, and not risk another execution with even oblique reference to the compelling tale of the sufferer. Resolution to the Summoner's mutiny is foggy, as I only understand what has been related to me, through the brief answers I thought to solicit. Ultimately, the ire of the Condess would be such that in the settling dust of the conflict, she would banish all from the homeworld except the young. She would scatter all who reach maturity to the stars to fight her wars, I presume to keep them occupied, existing in a less centralized state from which a coup may arise. This is still an incredible notion for me to consider, and I cannot even imagine how she would come to enforce such an upheaval in our civilization. Though I suppose she will have on her side the advantage of an unparalleled lifespan, and the leverage extended by the hideous psychic prongs of her deep, undulating monstrosity. That is, until it chooses another little witch to serve. Nevertheless, I take the prediction as truth, and find it amusing that a homeworld dominated by children will be the great Summoner's legacy. One of them, at least. More importantly, and less amusingly, His legacy will be my demise. You see, I first learned his name when I asked who would be the one to kill me. It's glitchy as shit. I have never spoken nor written of him out of contempt for the prophecy, but do so here in my final entry for this journal. I took this to be a pitiable fate and scoured the orb for any means of escaping it, or at least to salvage a little dignity from the tale of my downfall. Alas, it had no consolation for my vanity. But as I sit here deciding what to do with the damnable little sphere, I understand my error. It was not in failing to chart a course through future events to turn my fortune's tide, even so many sleeps from now. It was in believing the future was mine to know, and fortune mine to control. If this hero is meant to breathe life into my embittered heart, and if he is to earn the right to run it through, then so be it. For him I will commit to this page my highest expectations. Page of breath. Man, it's like laden with the metaphors. Really obvious metaphors. And for what precious uncertainty is left in my future, I renew my vigorous anticipation. The oracle I will resolve to part with. I will conceal it in a crypt bearing the sign of the expatriate. You misspelled expatriate. E-X-P-A-T-R-I-8. With a map to its location hidden in this journal. To whomever finds it, be wary, for the truth it tells may leave its new keeper blind as I was. Though no more. Yeah, the stuff with Darkleer, Air of Void, blah blah blah. Flip? Glitchy. No objection! Fuck. Glitchy video games actually kind of freak me the hell out. Hey, Red Glare, nice outfit. Same to you, Vriska. As much as it pains me to admit, your fruity orange fairy suit smells delicious. Thanks! I see you've finally wised up and started taking this rivalry seriously. It was hard to antagonize you properly while this is going too fast. I can't read this going that fast. Yes, I can see that, blah blah blah. I thought we settled this a long time ago. No, not revenge. Justice for the despicable murders of our innocent friends. Murders? Like plural? Vriska, please, do not try to deny it. I found the evidence. Tavros, Nepeta, even Gamzee. I mean, really, Vriska? Gamzee? Gamzee isn't dead, you dope. He flipped out or something and now... God damn. Well, yeah, okay. There was, like, one murder I was responsible for. You know Tavros? That was me, I guess. But that's it. He's the only one I killed. Just that one guy. You jack. What will happen is you will lead him here and he will kill us all. He will follow your sugary pixie trail with his keen canine snout. I have already seen the consequence in my mind's eye. Fascinating! Why don't you tell me your terms already? Forget my pixie trail. At this rate, my snoring will lead to him. What I propose is simple. I flip, heads you stay, scratch you go. You're kidding, right? You want luck to decide this? Maybe you forgot who you're dealing with. I am the thief of light. You really expect me to lose a simple coin flip? I've got all the luck, remember? I did not forget. What'll it be, Marquise? Just flip the fucking coin, neophytes. And it will land on its Side. Reminded of Discworld. I can appreciate the glitchiness, but did you have to make it go so fast that I couldn't actually read it aloud, even with my ridiculous quick reading? I'm annoyed that I couldn't read it. The disc is too badly damaged. You can no longer play Homestuck. Quit? You are forced to quit. You will not be able to play unless you can repair the scratch in the disc. You will need to seek the service of someone who is capable of scratch. A doctor, if you will. Visit doctor. You rang? That was a joke. Of course you didn't. I don't have a door, remember? Haha. Please come in. Liking the day, Scratch? Welcome to my apartment. I trust you'll find my voice is more palatable against this decor. I continue to be an excellent host. I'm expecting 2 more guests later. First one, and then another. Make yourself comfortable in the meantime, but don't touch the candy on the table. That is reserved to one of my guests. Let's have a look at this disc. She really did a number on it, didn't she? It's virtually unplayable like this. What a shame. There are many moments trapped in this disc which you would have no doubt find quite exhilarating. But yes, I can fix it. It will take time, though. I estimate, by which I am certain by way of omniscience, that when I am done, you'll have reached just shy of the green circle on the card above. I am sure you have already presumed this mark represents the beginning of Act 6. The disc should be ready to run in time to witness the critical event, a confluence of thickly interwoven, concurrent circumstances which have been meticulously arranged by myself, influenced to a much lesser extent by you, and by an even more negligible degree, our heroes. The scratch will be healed in time to watch these heroes put into motion, yes, the scratch itself. If you don't mind waiting here while I complete my repairs, I will tell you the rest of the story. I will show you as well, as I recover data from the disc. But the visuals I supply will be nothing more than abbreviated snapshots, and my telling will be abridged. Immortality notwithstanding, I'm not going to live forever, you know. Tick. And since for once in my life, time is at a premium, let's get on with it. Where were we? Talk. Never mind, I figured it out instantly because of my unfathomable intellect, limitless knowledge, and mind-boggling charisma. Granted, my charisma had less to do with it than other qualities, but it didn't hurt, did it? Here, I'll show you. Tick. The Seer of Mind had challenged the Thief of Light to a simple game of chance. If the result was the undamaged side, the thief would agree to stay. If not, she would go. Talk. The result of the flip was left inconclusive, at which point you decided to pay me a visit. But the inconclusive should not be confused with the uncertain. The actual result was trivial. It was a constant across all timelines. Both the seer and the thief knew this. The thief used her abilities to steal the fortune of her opponent, and forced the flip to yield what she regarded as the most favorable outcome. The seer anticipated this move correctly. This is why I don't care much for gambling. While a sucker is born with each tick of the clock, a cheater is born with each talk betwixt. Also because it's boring, and I am already a very wealthy man. And I'm also single, ladies. Tick. The seer relayed her terms to the generally understood argot of an assassin. The result go, while at face value would suggest the thief was allowed to leave, was actually the seer's code word for the threat of death. This was obvious to everyone, including the thief. Talk. While the thief turned to fly away, making a show of claiming her prize, the seer would stab her in the back the moment her guard was dropped. This was her plan. Not a particularly clever tactic in its own right, but its ingenuity didn't dwell in the novelty of the ruse, nor even the neutralized probabilities in the game of chance. Psychology was in play. Might as well cut it off there, then.